Huge news is in. Thomas Frank is the new Tottenham manager. He has cost them a pretty penny, but Tottenham Hotspur have got their man. Thomas Frank leaves Brentford to go to White Hart Lane, and he will lead Tottenham into the Champions League. It's a wise appointment. It's a noble appointment. It's a progressive appointment. And most interestingly, it's a pragmatic appointment. What we had with Postecoglou was a man who would dig his heels in, a man who was true to his system, a man who would not deviate from the way that he wanted to play the game. Ange Ball was integral to everything that Ange Postecoglou did. Thomas Frank is the opposite of that. A pragmatist rather than a purist. A man capable of redefining himself and reevaluating his own preferred formation. When Tottenham are playing away at Liverpool, there will be 5 at the back, 3 centre-halves, and Tottenham will be robust and difficult to beat. Equally, when they're playing at home and they are thinking that they are favourites for the game, the 3 points is essential. There'll be 4 at the back, and they will play aggressive, progressive midfielders. You quite easily see a Tottenham team at White Hart Lane with both James Maddison and Archie Gray in the middle. Kulusevski, Tell and Solanke ahead of them, with only Bentancur really protecting that back line. But equally, Thomas Frank will do the opposite of that. He will shut up shop away at Chelsea, away at Man City, away at Liverpool. You see Danso, Romero, Van der Ven at the back, and in front of them will be Sarr, Bergvall and Bentancur. Pragmatic management is what Tottenham have got, and sadly, I think this could steer them into the right direction. Therefore, there is only one man to talk to, and that man is the king that is Flavio Briatore. Please welcome Flav onto the channel. Flav, as always, it's an honour to have you, sir. So, Flav, the news is in. Thomas Frank is the Tottenham manager. What's your first impressions of this move?
It's not been a secret, has it? I think we heard even before Postecoglou was sacked that Frank had already agreed it, and that there are just issues with backroom and stuff like that to sort out. I've had time to process the idea that he's going to be our manager, and I'm just quietly optimistic. Really, I've been thinking back to the last time, generally as a football club, it felt like we were moving in the right direction. Like there was this sort of holistic approach to what we should be doing, and everyone had bought in, fans, club, players, led by the manager. And it was, I'd say, as far back as 2017-18 under Pochettino. In that period, it's been pretty kind of, I don't know, sort of mercurial. Like we've had ups, we've had downs, but it's been generally, we've been lacking an idea of what it looks like to follow a football club that's progressing in the right direction.
So this has cost you about 10 million quid. Do you feel like that's money well spent?
If he's the right manager, it's peanuts, right? I think there's this idea.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. If you spend £10 million on a player, a central defender who is not going to play for your football club, no one would bat an eyelid. But spending £10 million for a manager who could legitimately change the trajectory of your football club, and people go, "Oh, that sounds like a lot for a manager," but it is a lot though. £10 million compensation is quite a rare thing for a manager in the Premier League for sure. So. No, mate, I'm quietly optimistic.
Yeah. Okay. What about in terms of the impact on the squad? So obviously there's talk of Christian Romero potentially leaving. Atletico Madrid have been eyeing him up, and they've made no secret of their desire to sign him. Obviously, Heung-min Son, I think we've established you'd like Christian Romero certainly to stay. Do you think that the Thomas Frank arrival will have an impact on that?
I don't think that Thomas Frank arrival makes Christian Romero go, brilliant, I'm definitely staying at Tottenham. I think maybe given a month with him, he may change his mind. If I had to guess, he would be angling for a move if there was a possibility for him to join Atletico Madrid and Simeone there, given his personality and the type of player he is, then yeah, of course, he'd jump at the chance to go, for sure. We just won a trophy, he leaves on a high, reputation through the roof. And he doesn't have to sort of necessarily angle too much for a move or become disruptive. The difficulty for Romero is that we've qualified, we won that competition, ironically. It is that we don't need to raise money from player sales in order to spend, and that was his best chance, that we would have to raise money, right? So
you've got money now. You've got money. Do you reckon there's a chance? Like Brian Mbuemo to Manchester United, it felt like a done deal, didn't it? Like
it's gone very quiet.
It's gone very quiet. And obviously, we've seen lots of situations, haven't we? Lots of examples of managers bringing their prized possessions with them. You know, there's obviously, like, the reason that this deal took longer than it necessarily should have done was because Thomas Frank wanted to bring his backroom staff. There's a
Yeah,
world where this extends to his front room staff, isn't there?
yeah. I think if you're if you're in Bremo, you're probably looking at it, given the heritage of Manchester United and what that club means to world football. He'd probably looking going, this chance isn't going to come up very often. Appreciate the challenges at the football club. It, it wouldn't surprise me if he still went to Man United at all, right? But if you think about the opportunities to improve, what Frank's done with him already and what he's already done for Frank, it would mean I think it would probably work out better for him playing at Tottenham. He knows exactly what Frank wants from him. He'll go straight into the team. He will play 38 games. He didn't miss a minute, Premier League minute for starting minute, sorry. He didn't miss a game
Mm.
for Brentford last season. And that would be the same at Tottenham. He would be the starting right forward, and Brendan Johnson would have to try and get back into the squad. So he's
But
already
that's
talked about
see, that's
Kulusevski.
great though from your perspective, isn't it? Because what you want is you want a situation where players are forcing one another to improve, forcing one another to be at their best because their place is in jeopardy.
Of course, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's standard stuff, really. And with Champions League football, it means there's going to be minutes for everybody. Like with the Europa League, it felt like you had one team, this season, one team that was sort of not fancied because of everything that's been discussed. Like if you were playing on a Saturday in the Premier League, as bizarre as it sounds, it meant that you weren't playing in a competition that isn't nearly as competitive as the Premier League. So it's this weird position we found ourselves in trying to attempt to win that trophy last year. Um, but this year will be different. Like we will need a squad that can put out an excellent side in the Premier League and in the Champions League, or one that can compete at least. So we will need two wingers, yeah, and Mbuemo would be a beautiful addition, but I don't see it.
You don't see that happening.
I can't. I can see it happening. I just think the lure of Man United is too great.
Yeah, I can kind of see I can see what you're
What can
thinking
I
there, but I
can I
see a
ask
world
you?
where this happens, Flav.
Would you mind if I asked you a question on your channel?
No, I would be honoured.
What do you think? What do you think of the Frank appointment? If it was Chelsea, would you be uninspired?
I think it's great for you for many reasons. The primary one being stable. What Thomas Frank is undoubtedly, he is a good manager. He is a good, proven Premier League manager who is undoubtedly capable of steering Tottenham in the right direction. You think about what he has done with Brentford. You think about when he took them over, they were in the Championship. He got them into the Premier League. It wasn't that long ago. When was it? 2021.
Yeah,
Since then,
5 years, is it?
yeah, 5 years, right? Since then, they've never really flirted with relegation. I think at one point, I think they finished 16th once. But
The
again,
first
that's
season, first
yeah, I
season,
think they finished 16th once. But
I
generally
think.
speaking, nobody ever thinks that they're going to go down. He's a good manager. The only doubt I would have is he's he's never won a major trophy as a manager, and competing in the Champions League with Frank, competing in the Champions League with Frank, I don't know what that's going to mean. So let's see. I think he is a good manager though, mate. I don't want to rain on the parade. I'm just flagging the concerns. The only
Yeah,
other one
fair.
would be the only other concern would be, the other managers perhaps that have shone. What Thomas Frank has been for the past 5 years is a constant. He has burned bright throughout. And over the past 5 years, of these kind of managers, I think he's been the best. But other managers have they've maybe burned brighter. So, for example, De Zerbi for one season burned brighter. Iraola for one season burned brighter. Marco Silva maybe for one season burned brighter. And I wonder if it's not that they're better managers, because there is something to be said for consistency. But I wonder if those managers would perhaps be more inspiring. Like, who would you have gone for if it
Yeah,
was your choice? Like, I know it's very difficult for you to answer this now. Frank is your manager, but if you had the choice between, say, De Zerbi and Frank, or Iraola and Frank, what would you have preferred? What's a better fit for Tottenham Hotspur?
I think De Zerbi I didn't like because of how explosive he was and how at any moment it could seem to go
Burned by
tits up.
Conte.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But also also his time at Brighton, he left, and the Brighton fans weren't too bothered by his departure, and also his time in Marseille has been marred with a fallout with the squad, and he wants. Apparently, there was an approach, and he said he wanted to stay at Marseille, so it says that perhaps he has a handle on that. But De Zerbi for me was too much of a loose cannon for what we need. I'm not sure many Spurs fans are going to want to hear this, but slow, fast progression, hopefully, but slow progression is absolutely fine as well. That's how I feel. Whether that resonates with the Tottenham fan base, I'm not sure. So it's easier for me to say this when he's just been appointed. But I genuinely think that out of the three, he gives us the best chance of progression.
Mate, he's a pragmatist as well, and I think that there's something to be said for that. Like, if you love Postecoglou for being that purist, you've now gone. I think that there's a saying in Italy, isn't there? When you go from a thin pope, you then go to a fat pope, and a fat pope to a thin pope. You change styles, and you've certainly done that because you've gone from somebody who will dig in for their principles to somebody who basically doesn't have any. And I say that with a positive slant. He will do what works, and you will now have the ability to win and win ugly. You didn't have that ability. You now have the ability to find the glory in set pieces. You have the glory of maybe a 0-0 draw. That was not Postecoglou. So that's tactical flexibility is effectively what we're saying here.
Yeah,
which I think has to be seen as a positive.
He played eight. He played 8 different formations in the Premier League last season, and they were completely dependent upon who we were facing. Additionally, when he came up through the Championship, he qualified through playoffs, but they played a really attractive brand of football when he had one of the best squads in the division. When he came up to the Premier League, he's like, how do I stay in this division? I do what's necessary. I look at the strength of my squad, and I apply it appropriately to depending on who I'm facing. He I think it was 13th in his first season. He was finished 9th in his second season. It was actually his third season where he struggled and was in 16th. But he's always adapting, and all we can do right now is focus on the most positive aspects of it. What are the negative aspects about Thomas Frank right now? Perhaps his lack of star appeal, that he doesn't have the history of working with a big club. It's Brøndby and Brentford, and succeeding at those particular football clubs is a different challenge to the one that's failed so many managers that have joined us in recent times. Like Mourinho couldn't do it, Conte couldn't do it, Postecoglou couldn't do it.
But do you know what? The more I'm listening to you talk about this, the more I think that this is a good appointment, because there is something to be said for just safety, and flexibility is something that I really did slate Postecoglou for, a lack of flexibility. So now you've got a situation where, let's say you're playing away at Liverpool.
Yeah.
Like what you're going to do in that game is you're going to end up with 5 at the back, 3 centre halves. You're going to go Danso, Romero, Van der Ven, for example, right? You're going to have 3. Then you're going to have a really resolute midfield. You're going to have I don't know what it would be. Sarr, Bergvall, Bentancur. Like 3. And then maybe Kulusevski, Solanke, just to hope to get something. So you have the flexibility of being compact, difficult to beat, resolute. Equally, when you're playing at home, I don't know, what, 4-3-3? And it will be, your midfield will be nothing like the one we just said. So the one we just said was Sarr, Bentancur, Bergvall, right? Aggressive, generally speaking, tackles. You'll be playing at home and you'll go Maddison, Archie Gray, Bentancur, something like that, something a little bit more flexible. So I think it bodes quite well. Overall, optimistic for the new season?
Yeah, why not? I mean, what else can I be? We've just finished 17th. It's the worst season in living memory for me. And then we win a trophy, and it's the greatest night I've experienced under Tottenham. And that is us in a nutshell, although generally we never really get over that line. And the fact we've got that monkey off our back, and as we discussed recently to Rory, like the idea of the Spursy tag isn't completely gone, but we've gone some way into removing that. So yeah, why not? At this stage, he's just been announced. Let's look at every positive we can, and any fan of any football club should be doing the same at this stage, because there's no jeopardy at this stage. We can just think about the most positive outcomes, and a top 7 finish next year would be a massively positive outcome.
And mate, you're in the Champions League, man.
We're in the Champions League, and if we finish in the Europa League, we'll probably win that again. So I'm thinking like what's that be? Four European trophies?
Hey, you've got very flash in the space of 2 weeks. It's really happened, hasn't it? Like
Rory, I genuinely think if every time Spurs finish in the Europa League from this point onwards, we will win it, and
I,
not just because we won it. I just think this that a Premier League club like Tottenham has every advantage in that competition in the way it is at the moment.
yeah,
So we just keep
mate,
winning that, become the most successful team in London,
yeah,
and
you've won it more than us now. That's really upset me. You know that it's upset me far more than it should have done. Like it's quite
that's what,
insignificant. We've won the
mate.
European Cup twice, but for some
That's
reason, this really gets to me.
Rory. This is what I was trying to get at on the overlap where about like sort of European heritage in London. I was saying like Abramovich didn't really count, and you countered it with all these cups I'd never heard of that you'd won before, and I was like, fuck, maybe they're good. In hindsight, I've looked back and go, those cups were shit. They
Nah,
didn't
mate,
mean
mate,
anything.
mate, mate, mate. Don't start with me. Don't start with me. I can't. I'm still. Do you know? At some point, I will have made my peace with Tottenham winning European silverware in the most
Not yet.
glorious of circumstance, but it's just a little bit too raw.
Sorry,
So,
apologies, mate.
Flav, as always, it's an honour to have you on this channel, mate. Thank you so much for finding the time.
You're a legend, Rory, mate. Take care.
You are the king. Right, there we have it. Thank you so much to Flavio Briatore for finding the time. It's always a joy to talk to him. The insight that he brings on matters regarding Tottenham Hotspur are always a joy to hear. Thank you to Flav. Thank you to everyone for watching this video. Please do me a favour. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. Please do click subscribe if you're new around here. And I wish you all a good day. Ta-da.